Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Big Time Adulting Podcast. I have an amazing guest here today. I'm so excited to introduce you all to Catherine Reitman, the executive producer, creator, writer of the hit show on Netflix, Workin' Moms. You've seen her there playing Kate Foster. She's also the star of the show. And Catherine is here with us today to just break it down about the show, break it down about motherhood and more, because honestly, it's all very intertwined. So, Catherine, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Caitlin. Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. So, you're out in California, is that right?
I am, yes. Where are you located?
I'm in New York, but like in the suburbs
Opposite
now.
sides. Opposite
Yeah,
sides of the coast,
bi-coastal,
just saying
babe.
hello.
Bi-coastal.
Yes.
Um, but you're originally a Canuck, huh? You're Canadian.
Yeah, my parents are both Canadian, and I was born in Los Angeles,
Oh,
but
okay.
due to my parents, I have Canadian status. I'm a dual passport holder,
Got it.
which came in great handy when making the show. So we made it up in Canada. We have for the last
Yeah.
7 years, and it's been an utter joy working up there.
And your husband, who's your real life husband and on-screen husband, is he also
You.
Canadian or is he American?
He's not, although I tease him that he's more Canadian than me. He's from Chicago.
Okay.
Um, but Chicago and Toronto, I'll say, I can't speak for all Canadians because Calgary is a whole other world. But I will say that, like, Ontario, specifically Toronto and Chicago, has a lot of crossover in personality. It's
Like,
um It's got a Midwest energy, right? They're the guy at the bar that's got a lot to say, they wanna talk to you, they don't mind getting down to it, but also there's kind of like a Union Joe vibe where no one's better, no poppy too tall, we're all in this together. Um, where
yes,
I
I
feel
feel
like
like they're
LA or
very
New York,
friendly.
they're very friendly, and they don't want to appear as though they're better than you, whereas
Mm.
LA and New York, they're like, "Oh, I actually designed that." They're claiming ownership over things that Chicago and Canadian might not, or Toronto might not.
Yeah, oh, that's cute. That's cute. You like that shirt? I made that shirt that you're wearing. Yeah. I
Enjoy it.
know it
It's mine.
is. So, how do you feel about living out, by the way, in like the LA land? Because I don't know if, I mean, I don't want to insult anyone, but I don't know if I could do it with like all the actors and actresses in Hollywood.
There is a
So much
lot of actors
pressure.
and actresses. There's a lot of pressure. And I know one of your fans' followers was my roommate of a billion years in Los Angeles, Christian Wilkinson, mother of two. What's up, Christian?
Hey,
And
Christian.
she hung out in LA for a long time, not an actor by trade, although highly entertaining and beautiful. Um, but she moved to Ohio with her husband and kids, and I think they're a lot happier there. I think LA is a tough city to crack. I live in Santa Barbara currently, which is about an hour and
Oh,
a half north. It's where my
okay.
mom lives. Um, and I wanted to sort of be close to her after my dad passed away. So it's been a nice fit for us. It's a little slower than LA, but it's
Yeah.
really beautiful. And I've really enjoyed it here.
That's so nice, and I'm so sorry about your dad.
Oh, thanks. Thank you very much.
I know you've been really forthcoming about your emotion over his passing on your Instagram page, and um, the new season, the next season of your show is dedicated to him and very special. And he was in the business as well, right?
He was, yeah. So Ivan Reitman was his name, and he directed a bunch of movies, particularly in the 80s and 90s, that became hits. So The Ghostbusters and Twins, Kindergarten Cop, Dave.
Oh
Um,
my
yeah,
goodness. That is
those are all,
ridiculously amazing.
yes, those are signature IR movies.
Yes, they
And
are.
he was a pretty wonderful guy. And I've been sort of bowled over by the grief of it. And
Mm.
I, you always think, I lost a dog a few years ago, and I was like, okay, I understand grief. It sucks. I get it. And it turns out that was just like the lobby of the building that
Mm.
is grief when a parent dies. So it's been a real journey. It just sucks. Can you swear on this podcast?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, what a fucking delight. Yeah, it fucking sucks. It fucking
Oh,
sucks, but I'm
and
trying
you're only
to
41, so how old was
yeah,
your dad?
He was 75. He was
Yeah,
pretty young
young.
considering.
Yeah.
And it caught us all by surprise. He was at my house that day, having a good time, and then he went to bed and didn't wake up. So
You're
it's just
kidding
shocking.
me. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm so, so sorry. It's just,
Thank you.
I honestly like think about that stuff now as we're getting older and, like my grandparents died in the last couple of years and stuff. And I'm watching my mother grieve her parents' death, which is a completely different situation. I mean, they were so old and
No,
it
but
was
it's
their
real. Yeah,
time, but she's still so sad to lose her parents. And I don't think you're ever prepared for it, and certainly not in the way that it happened to your dad. So I'm so sorry. My heart is with you.
oh,
I
thanks.
don't
I
want
will say to those grieving listening, and I don't know if you all feel this way, but for me, it definitely clicked me into. It made me aware of my age, and it made me aware of how precious this little ride is. Not to sound corny, but we only have so long, and we really are put on this earth to have some fun, maybe make some more kids, replace ourselves and get the hell out. And I feel the intention of that in a way I never did before.
to.
So I think there is sort of a blessing of a death where it makes you go, okay, okay, I gotta, I have so many years left. I don't know, hopefully
Hmm.
more than 30, and I want to do what I can with them and replace myself with good people and, do my best out here.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I think that anything that's like difficult that you encounter in life is just such a reminder of how precious life is, right?
Totally.
It's so funny talking to you as a real person right now because even when I watched the show like first years ago, before I would have ever imagined talking to you on a podcast episode like this, I felt like I feels kind of like you so much are Kate Foster. Is that true? Like, do you feel very much like you're portraying a lot of the person that you are in real life?
For sure, we've got crazy crossover. But
Yeah.
she's got a lot of qualities I wish I had. So the characters were created, Kate, Frankie, Anne, and Jenny were created, they were based in season one off of like flaws of mine. I basically became a mother, experienced postpartum depression right out the gates, and went back to work too quickly where it really became amplified. And I started feeling like I was having this identity crisis where I was looking around and everyone else who was a mother just seemed kind of a natural fit. They were maternal, they were selfless, they had an elegance that I couldn't tap into. Um, and I felt like I made a mistake. I felt like, okay, I wasn't really meant to be a mom.
Do you think that perception of the other mom's like elegance that you saw at that time was real, or do you think that they were just maybe kind of hiding how difficult it is to be a mother? Because I feel a
There's
lot like how you felt.
I think there's a little of both. Like I do think that there are women, I think there are parents that are born naturally maternal or paternal, that they feel a connection right away with their child, that they feel. I'm sure everyone feels fear to a certain degree, but I certainly met a lot of women, specifically in this Mommy and Me group that I was in, that were sort of like, I don't know, I don't feel very scared. I feel really connected to the kid, and I'm just taking it one day at a time. And I was like, what? What the fuck? I am terrified. I don't want to drive anywhere with him because I will accidentally kill him. I thought that I was
Wow.
going to ruin him and in the process ruin myself, which I felt really selfish about. I was
Mm,
really scared of not being interesting anymore or attractive or cool or smart. I thought everything was just going to be seeped out of me. And
mm,
anyway, the point of bringing all this up was that the characters Anne, Frankie, Jenny, and Kate were all based off of huge flaws of mine. Kate, my ambition, which certainly always seemed to get in the way. My lost child, which was Frankie. My anger, which was Anne, and my vanity, which was Jenny. And so those qualities that no one seemed to want to talk about in my Mommy and Me group, I just gave them to these characters that, of course, 7 years later have turned into, three-dimensional, wonderful characters that the actresses and the writers brought to life, more than I ever could in season one.
no.
But that's where it all stemmed from.
Well, I remember watching season 1 and being like, "This is a fucking great show," because it was so real.
Mm.
The feelings, the emotions, and everybody. I feel like you felt like you could be truly like friends with in the show, and the actors are just they really great acting, and so I
Yeah, they're
guess
amazing.
like did so I feel like your show highlighted so well the struggles of women as moms and as working moms. But even like I wasn't a working mom at that time, and I felt so much of everything that you were talking about, just being, pulled in a million different directions all the time. But it also highlighted like the importance of female friendships so much
Mm.
too, and how like much you really need to lean on that as a mother, and knowing women that are kind of going through what you're going through, and to be able to be honest with them, like your relationship with Anne in the show.
It's funny that sort of when I went into the show, I was just trying to write about my, experiences as a mother and things that I had seen portrayed on TV yet. And what was wild was I think Danny Kind, who plays Anne, and I had such natural chemistry, and
Mhm.
our friendship, it kept developing on camera in a way where it became the love story of the show more than I ever predicted it would, and it was such a, like, wonderful discovery. These are just things you learn when making a mess, of a TV show. All of a sudden, you're like, "Oh, this is what the show is about. That's so cool," and, it
Yeah.
informs the writers' room. We start writing more to it, and the amount of women who have approached me about that female friendship that, I don't know, I always liken it to, and I know Sex and the City is about female friendship as well, really successfully, but the way we watched those women be fashionable and sort
Yeah.
of lived vicariously through their fucking rad fashion, I
Yeah.
feel like Kate and Anne's dynamic, their friendship, there's a similar sort of fantasy fulfillment when you watch it. You're like, oh, that friendship feels easy. That feels good. I need that. And there's some like it's a parallel in a way.
Yeah, I mean the honesty is so great. I mean the writing is just amazing because it's so on point with real life. How about like being on screen with your husband in real life? Is that like, or were there days that you're like, "I'm annoyed with you and I don't feel like
100%.
acting?"
Of course. Of course. He's still my husband. Um,
Yeah.
Phil's an amazing dude, and for those who know him can speak to this. Like, he's such a pro, and he wants to make the best product possible in every aspect of our lives. Every dinner, every Halloween costume, he's the perfectionist out of the two of us. So when approaching a scene, which can be very annoying, FYI, but also like gets the job done, right? In a way where I'm so grateful for him because he's constantly improving the quality of our life. But as a scene partner, of course, he wants to bring everything to it. Um, and we got really good, like really, really good at communicating to each other and being able to like take our husband and wife hat on and put on our Kate and Nathan hats on. Like if we had a fight, we would be able to be like, okay, this is what we're doing in the scene and just like turn it off,
Yeah.
which started to sort of blur into our real lives. Like, when you're with your kids and you have to pretend you're not in a fight with your husband,
Yeah.
there's something sort of similar where you're like, okay, we will deal with this later. You're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Right now, this takes priority, whether it's the scene or the kids or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you kinda
you're
just have to back burner shit sometimes.
totally, and
Yeah.
compartmentalizing is such a huge part of marriage that it was a natural fit.
Yeah, I'm still mad at him for cheating on you, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, that was kind of his idea. The dude's such a genius. Like he always comes to the writer's room a few months in and is like, tells us what works and doesn't work. And we had another character having the affair, and he was like, "You're crazy. You got to make it Nathan." And
Yeah.
he pitched himself for it. I'm like, "Philip, do you know what you're doing?" And he was like, "Yeah, I think it's better. I think it's a bigger hit." And when we sort of, we do something called breadcrumb, which is where you go backwards from what you want the big splash to be, and you
Yeah.
set up, you lay all these breadcrumbs down so the viewer feels like they're getting there in an earnest way. And it made sense, like, all the breadcrumbs fit, so it was a great pitch. But yes, waitresses hate him,
Yeah,
flight
cut like a
attendants hate him.
knife. Cut like a knife.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Totally.
Do you ever get, like, self-conscious about the way things are gonna play out on camera after they air and stuff, or you feel good? Like, you're like, "I this is good. I know this is good shit." Like
Yeah, I mean, by the time it airs, Caitlin, like, it takes, like, a whole year to make this thing, right? And I'm
yeah.
watching myself over and over again, and I'm reading it over and over again, and I'm noting it, and I'm editing it, and by the time it airs, I'm so like, "Watch it!" You know, because
Yeah.
it's such a process. Um,
Yeah.
I don't feel self-conscious when strangers watch it. I feel self-conscious when friends and family watch it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like, "Oh, yeah, because they know me and they know my kids and they know my husband," and that feels a little bit more self-conscious making, but I'm still like, "There's nothing else I should be doing. This is what I should be doing."
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I you definitely should be doing what you're doing, and
Thank you.
I feel similarly to you with like Instagram posts and stuff. Like, it's funny that I just like, I'll say whatever, but when I think about the people who know me in real life watching it, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my God, I hope that was like okay by them.
totally.
Um,
What is that?
I
It's
know,
I
I
guess
don't
that and
know.
you put weight in some people who don't even deserve it. You're just like, "Oh god, I hope I didn't offend them, or they're
Yeah.
gonna think that's not me," and it's like, "What am I even doing? This is
Or
my
yeah, sometimes the people who deserve it the least, right? Like you're like
why do
most
they get
worried
so much
about that. I
clout? I
don't know.
know."
Ugh.
Yeah,
So
very
you guys
annoying.
have two children in real life. What are your kids'
Yes.
ages?
I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and, they are in 4th and 1st grade,
Okay.
2 little boys, and the first one was 2.5 when I started making the show, and my little guy was 3 months
Wow.
old.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. Did you feel like you worked through different like hard parts of motherhood through that show? Like that it helped you figure stuff out
Oh,
or like think through things?
oh, it was totally cathartic. It was a wild ride. And I always liken the show to another like my 3rd kid because I've had to learn like I always say I white knuckled season 1 because I didn't know what I was doing, similar
Yeah.
to when I had a newborn. And
Yeah.
then by season 2 you kind of have a toddler that is walking and talking back and telling you where it's funny and where it's angry and then by the time you're at season 7, she's about to graduate high school and you kind of have to like let her do her thing and let go and it's it's been a crazy journey.
Yeah, and do you feel like I mean, through the show, you highlight so much about what it is to be a working mom, and then you were a working mom on the show. Do you still go through all those normal things that, like, the guilt, being torn in a million different directions, and those things that also, like, you could speak to this about your husband too, because he's doing the exact same thing as you, although maybe you're doing a little more work on the show because you're like the whole show. But just the things that
Do
you're
I feel
expected
mom guilt?
to. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, of course, and I hear it, like, I hear it from others. I hear it from others more than my kids. My kids genuinely seem happy, I mean, for the most part,
yeah.
and they still complain about me, but they're not complaining about me missing things and being a working parent. They're complaining about me putting the wrong, fucking snacks in their lunchbox, but I get like, I drop off my big guy at he's in a basketball carpool where they, like, go to their club basketball games, and I always like the moms if I don't show up, if Phil is an incredible 50-50 parent. I just wanna say that, like, not everybody gets that. I got that.
Mhm.
He rules. We don't currently have a nanny. We haven't had one in over a year, which is a wonderful thing to have a nanny, but in our job, you kinda need one, and we don't
Yeah.
have one, and it's kicking our
I
ass.
was how the
But,
hell do you work that? Like, how do you even
I mean, school's a blessing, but
Yeah.
also like, you're just leaning on other parents, you're leaning on, you're barely scrapping by, like, it's been I don't recommend it.
Wait, this has been for,
I've
the whole time since you've had kids, you haven't had a nanny, or just this is
No,
a
no, no,
recent
just a
thing?
year, it's just been 1 year,
Okay, okay,
which
so I missed that.
I'm highly aware of how privileged I sound, um,
No,
but
you're a
for
working
working
mother,
the
you yeah.
That's it. For working the
Yeah.
hours we do without help has been pretty crazy. Um, but the kids, what I was saying before is that, if my husband drops off Jackson at a basketball thing, the other mothers are like, "Oh, is Catherine working?" And he
Yeah.
says, he delivers it just perfectly. There's just a little bit of a hint of something on it where you
Yeah.
have to go, okay. maybe they didn't say it that way, right? Maybe Phil and I are reading into it because we're so hyper aware of what the show has done to our lives, and we just so badly want the kids to be well represented out in the world.
Hmm.
Um, but I suspect there's a little bit of like, is she a hands-on parent? And, does she care about her kids as much as her precious acting career? I always wonder if there's a little bit of that out there.
Yeah, fuck them though,
Fuck, but you know what I mean?
So we briefly touched on this like right before we started the show, but you have a kiddo who's home from school today, and I didn't realize there's a very specific diagnosis that your son has, and I wanted you to kind of talk about that. We didn't have this planned, but I think it's a great time to sort of shed light on this.
Yeah, I had never heard of it before. Long story short, my kid was acting out in a way that was not him. This is my little guy. And it's one thing when your like 6-year-old is having tantrums because that's kind of normal, but there was separation anxiety, there was a little bit of obsessive compulsive disorder. There was all sorts of qualities that weren't who he is.
Mm,
And finally to the point where he got suspended from school and we were really concerned. And our pediatrician shared with us that he had strep throat. And as a result of strep throat, he had something called pandas. And I started laughing because it's such a ridiculous name for a
yeah.
virus, but it is. So it's PANDAS, pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with strep throat. So through strep throat, your brain changes basically. It will come back, but you behave differently. You have some crazy symptoms that are unlike who your child is. And as a result, he was really acting out in a way that Philip and I couldn't predict and was getting him in a lot of trouble at school. He was put on antibiotics and the symptoms went away and we thought he was fine, but right now they're acting up again. And it's been a roller coaster, not just for Phil and I, but for my little guy who
Yeah.
can't seem to get the ground under him. He doesn't feel like himself. He doesn't feel safe. Um, and it's made life a roller coaster for him and for us and our school. And I just wanted to put out there for anyone else who was experiencing pandas, because when you bring it up, like you wonder if the teachers even believe you because it's not something that's talked about
Yeah.
frequently.
Yeah.
It's not,
I've
one of
only
the
heard of it
biggies.
one other time outside of like this time that you're talking about. And so how long ago was this diagnosis? Was it how how long has it been going
September.
on?
It
Okay.
was September, and it can go on for months and months, and it can go on for a few weeks. It really depends on the case. Um, but it's a crushing thing, and when I bring it up with friends, I think I mean, everyone, thank God, the moms at my school have been extraordinary, but there's, I'm sure a few who are scratching their head, not thinking that's real, and that's heartbreaking because their serotonin is literally under attack. Like they're struggling to be happy.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been a really challenging time for all of us, but we're also, I'm getting a lot more time with him. I'm getting to know him in a way I never knew before, and he's such a spectacular little guy. Like
That's
he's
great.
got all these just amazing qualities that I know once he gets through this will shine on, and he'll like Phil and I keep telling ourselves like he's gonna be better for this, right? Like he's way too handsome and funny and interesting. This is gonna give him a little bit of grit and make his life more interesting down the road.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to, it's got to be a certain amount of like anxiety, kind of not knowing which way it's going to turn or come back or whatever. And so there's like that whole fear. I mean, from dealing with children's illnesses now, pretty much like any illness makes me just sort of PTSD freak out a little bit.
Totally, and you feel, like, oddly responsible for it, even though it's, like, just this thing that
Yeah.
happens, and, um, yeah, I mean, I would say to anyone listening who has it that there are many, many cases out there. It's becoming less and less of an odd thing, and to speak about it, because the more we talk about it, especially because it's with our children, it gives our children less of a stigma on the opportunity to sort of go through it and be normal, feel
Yeah.
normal.
So typically this is treated via an antibiotic. Is that the way it works? And then it's because it's
That's
treating the
right.
strep?
Correct. So it treats the strep and usually takes care of the symptoms with it, but the symptoms can leave and come back. It's really unfortunate, and it's a really hard thing to sort of nail down. My our kids' teachers are amazing now though because they can identify it. Like one of my kids' symptoms was he just eats like crazy. He's this
Wow.
tiny little guy, and he just inhales. And if he's eating snacks all day, like he has to sit outside the classroom and eat snacks, they're like, pandas might be back. And then you just start being like, oh, this is a few too many tantrums over nothing. And
Yeah.
it's it's an accumulation of things that we've been able to identify. Or he can't leave my side. Like I couldn't drop him off at school for a little bit without me having to really stay with him, or he'd go nuts. So that was the peak point of it was unbearable. Um, and he still was like his sweet self underneath, which is so much harder, right? If they're
Yeah.
just jerks, you're like, okay. But he would have these like little, we'd be snuggling in bed and he'd have these like yummy moments that were just so signature him, and it made my heart break.
Yeah, so what's the course of action when like the symptoms resurface? Is there a secondary treatment plan or
Well, you're asking at a good time. He's literally at the pediatrician. I think I actually heard them come home. So he's coming home with my husband now, and we'll learn what the treatment will be. We've got an excellent psychiatrist, which has been helping a ton,
yeah,
and, a team of people around us who've been incredibly supportive.
yeah. So in terms of where you're at in your motherhood journey now with you have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. We're in a really similar wheelhouse except for I have one more under that, the 3-year-old. I have a 3-year-old
I'm
as
sorry
well,
about
but
that. I'm sorry.
thank you. Thank you
Sorry
for
for your
the
loss.
condolences. um, how do you feel about like motherhood now versus when you started out, like what being in that postpartum depression and just kind of like loss of self and everything? Do you feel back or do you think you never get that stuff back or what?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think I've grown a ton. I think the
Yeah.
person I was so terrified of losing has, like, doubled in size. It's so weird, like, people say you become a mother and you, like, gain all this, like, wisdom and strength and badassery, but and you're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, that's what women say to themselves to, like, get over the fact that they're sad that they became moms." Like, I remember thinking that, and then you actually become a mother and you do gain all this wisdom and badassery, and you're like, "Oh, it's real. I can handle
Yeah.
anything now."
Well, true, because
I
it's
will
so hard.
well, and you should. I mean, your son survived leukemia. I mean, you're if anyone should know about a little bit about badassery, it's you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it was not an easy time. And obviously, like every parent's worst nightmare to go through something like that. But I always say, like, we're the lucky ones because he's okay now and doing well and thriving. And that's all,
Thank
like,
God.
that's all
Thank
you
God.
needed. Like, you would literally walk to the end of the earth to do anything to make sure your kids were going to be okay and do it all over again if you knew you were going to have the same outcome. So really, I truly feel like we are very blessed and lucky, and I'm just grateful to be where we're at today. Just more of kind
I
of what you were
bet.
saying about, living in the moment, and it teaches you to to just be here and now. And I, by the way, I am not like a Zen master by any fucking stretch of the imagination, but I'm trying. I try to be better about being like present now, focusing on the here.
Well, this is what I'm saying. You experience a little bit of ouch, and you can't help but get zenny. You can't help but feel like,
Yeah.
oh man, I survived that. Look at the way the leaves move on the tree. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you find yourself, slowing down and petting your dog more and feeling the moments. And
Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful part of it.
Did you ever do any stand up, by the way?
No, I think I'd be a terrible stand-up. I think stand-ups are one of the most impressive specimens on earth. I was an improv person, so I like working with a team. I like being able to,
Bounce off
ramble
somebody
with
else.
somebody else exactly and sort of
Yeah.
find a flow, and I really rely on others. Someone who can stand up and just set up punch, set up punch, set up punch by themselves and get heckled on top of it, they're heroes.
Oh my God, the heckling. I didn't even really think about that. I know, but you're so fucking funny.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And look,
Yeah.
I get heckled plenty. The internet's a wild thing, right? I mean,
Oh, you got to have some thick skin to do what you're doing, right?
and then be ready for them to criticize your thick skin,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's no relief.
And it's like a punching bag.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
so I just, what do you feel like at this point in your life as a working mom, like that you're doing great at? Like, what could you give yourself a pat on the back for?
Ooh.
You need to give yourself a
How,
compliment.
do people do this? Do they like answer what they're good at?
Oh.
That's tricky, man, because I'm always like, I don't know, I'm pretty tough on myself. Let's see. Um, I mean, I love the shit out of my kids. There's no getting around it. I mean, they drive me crazy, but
Yeah.
I love them in a way that I don't love myself.
Oh, don't
It's
say that. You're so
no, no, I love myself.
lovable.
I
Yeah.
love myself. I love myself. Catherine, you're fantastic.
Yeah.
And and look, I've had to look myself in the mirror plenty of times and be like, look at you. Look at you. I'm proud of who I am. But I do love my kids in a way that, like you said, I would go to the ends of the earth and do just about anything for them. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that enough of a self compliment?
I think it is. Yeah, I feel like it's like saying you're proud of how much you love them and like what how much you would give of yourself for your kids. And I think that's just
I mean,
like
I
the
got
best.
a great I got a good neck on me and some good calves. I mean, if we're just looking for stuff that
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
proud
there you
of,
go. Yeah, just
I've
shout it
I can
out.
rock a skirt. I can rock
You
a
do.
capri
You look
pant, no
great.
problem.
By the way, you
Thank
do
you.
look great. You have a rockin' bod.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
and
look,
I
there's
saw
good parts,
you
but
in scary on that scary mommy post. You were looking
how
pretty
about
sexy.
that? Really
Sexy
went for
AF.
it.
Yeah, you did.
It's out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
I
done.
I did the stupidest thing. It was my husband's birthday recently, and my friend was like, print the sexy photo of yourself for his birthday, put it in a frame, what a hot gift.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what else am I gonna do a sexy photo shoot? You know what? I will. And if he doesn't like it, at least I could duck it away somewhere and I know that when I'm 65, I can pull it out and be like, oh, look at you. So I print it. The frame lady was like, okay. And I bring it home and I wrap it up. My mom had surprised us and invited some family friends over for this birthday dinner because I thought I was just pulling it out in front of my mom and Phil. So it's sitting on the table with like all wrapped up next to the cake, and my mom's like banana Republic sweaters she got for him, uh, which by the way are gorgeous. But dinner ends, he opens up the banana Republic sweaters and he's like, oh, and he opens up the cards for my kids. Oh, and then they're like, "Look at this enormous one. Catherine, what did you get him?" And inside I'm like, "Ah," and I'm, like, trying to figure out if I should get out of it, and, like, I'm like, "Oh, this is private," but then it's weirder if it's private. So he opens it in front of my mom, and my kids are in the room. I thought my kids would, because they usually rush out the second dinner is done to go watch TV, and, they were there and my family's friends, and it's like these sexy photos. They're not, porn. I mean, it's covered, but it's still like very provocative. And it was quiet, silent in the
Oh
room.
my god, I love this.
And I was like, Phil, I started immediately rambling and self deprecating to another level where I was like, I know it's stupid and I'm crazy and let's stick it in the closet and forget it. And I'm just like totally going nuts. And finally, the women in the room didn't know what to say. So they were just like, no, it's great. It's great.
That's such a great
And
like TV moment actually.
except it was real life with the people I care so much about. And
And they've all seen you in your underwear.
I mean, if they've seen the show, they've seen more than that.
Yeah,
But
right.
it was definitely a moment of like, huh, this played better up here. This played better in my
Happy
mind. Yeah,
birthday.
exactly. Exactly. Like I might as well have got him one of those. You remember when you were kids and you'd like did like a packet of gift certificates for your parents that were homemade? Like I'll make you cookies and I'll do the laundry. And I might as well have like made a stack of them that was like BJ's whenever you want. Like what was I thinking?
All right, so Catherine, I want to let you go because I know you have to get down to your kiddo and chat with your husband. But before you,
hmm
I have a very important question to ask you, which is I usually
Oh,
close out a lot of like my Instagram posts with telling people to get themselves a snack. And so what I need to know is what snack would you get yourself if I was like, Catherine, go get a snack?
Finally, the important questions. I'm a salt over sugar girl, so I would go with I like a nachos. I like a tortilla chip with a guac or a pico de
Yes.
gallo. But if I'm in a pinch, if I'm on the road, I'll take a Dorito. I'll take a Dorito.
A Dorito on the run.
A
I l-
to-go Dorito is my
that
breath.
Yeah, that is a salacious sound snack. That is
She dirty. Yeah, she dirty. Look, I mean, for the ladies out there who might be jamming on some Doritos right now, I respect the fuck out of you. That is a snack.
that is a fucking snack.
That's running your fingers. You know what I mean? That's a commitment for at least 30.
It might be ruining your shirt too. You might be wearing that snack. You
You
gotta
are
wear
wearing it.
like you have to own that snack in every way at that point.
You only wear a certain color when you're munching a Dorito because then you can really commit.
My kids are here. Now my kids are here. That was unexpected. Hi, buddy. All right, hang on one second. You guys wait till I close this out. Now, yeah, I will. 1 second. All right.
This is my life too. Hi.
That is the end of the episode, Catherine.
How else could it end? Perfection.
Thank you so much for coming today. It was a joy getting to talk to you and getting to know you a little bit. Let's keep in touch on the gram.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much, guys.
I hope
Good luck
I'm
with all
sending
of
great
that.
vibes for your little buddy and hoping he's doing okay really soon.
Thank you so much.
Lots of love.
Thanks, baby. Bye, guys.
Bye.